Hello, this is this week's topic lesson, continuing our topic of the Anglo-Saxons. We're going to look today about the origins, or start to look about the origins of the Anglo-Saxons' arrival, discuss Britain before the Anglo-Saxons. We're going to start to think about why the Anglo-Saxons could have arrived, and we're going to discuss differences between groups of people. Who were the Anglo-Saxons and where did they come from? Think back to last week's lesson. So the Anglo-Saxons originally came from Denmark, or what we now call Denmark, which is this area here. There are three main groups of Anglo-Saxons: the Angles, the Saxons and the Jutes, and they all settled in different parts of Britain, or England in fact. So the Jutes, they came and they settled in Wessex, which is now kind of Wiltshire and Dorset and Somerset and kind of around there. The Saxons settled in East Anglia, which is now Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, those kinds of places. And the Angles came and settled in Northumbria and Mercia. So Mercia is kind of the Midlands around Birmingham. Northumbria is this part just kind of below or going into what is now Scotland and in the north of England, up there. So who lived in Britain before the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons? The place wasn't empty. There must have been people here before, but who was there? Have a think. Do you know who was there before? Right, some of you may have known or may have worked out that the people who were here before the Anglo-Saxons were the Britons and the Romans. Now the Britons were the kind of native people of the British Isles. The Celtic people who've been here since the Bronze Age or even the Neolithic, really. The descendants of those people who've kind of been here really since the end of the last ice age. There's also the Celtic people who you find in Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Cornwall, places like that. They could have been here a long time, but some people think they may have migrated up from Spain and what is now Spain and Portugal, but a long time before this. The Romans, as you probably know, came from Rome. Rome is the capital of Italy, and in those days the Romans had a huge empire. But just how big was the Roman Empire? Have a think. How much area do you think the Roman Empire covered? How far from Rome did they spread out? So here is a map of the Roman Empire. You can see Rome is in the middle here. This is Italia, which we now call Italy, a bit bigger than it is now. And all of this was the Roman Empire. So we're going up as far as what we now call Scotland, what was then Caledonia, France, Spain, Portugal, all around here, Macedonia, Greece, Turkey, bits of Iran, Israel, Egypt, all Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, all these places in North Africa were all part of the Roman Empire. So they covered a huge amount of space. And there we are up in what is now England, in what they called Britannia. So why do you think they left? Have a think. The Romans had this huge empire, ruled, an awful lot of what at that time was the known world, and yet at some point they decided to leave. This was the empire in 117 AD. Now we learned last year that the Saxon period started in 410 AD. So sometime between 117 AD and 410, the Romans left Britain. Can you think why? So if we look at this timeline, we can see down here the Romans conquered Britain just after AD 1. I think it was 55 AD, but I'd have to check that. The Romans left Britain about here. Now if we look here, the Western Roman Empire falls. basically what happened, and it's quite complicated, but in simple terms, the Romans had stretched themselves too far. They were in control of too much land, too many countries. The empire was too big. And people started to argue, and things went wrong, and things collapsed, and it all became very difficult. There was a lot of political problems in Rome. Various things happened, and the Western Roman Empire fell, and the Romans left. They packed up their things, and they went home. I mean, some of them did stay. A lot of Romans left Britain, and they certainly stopped ruling in Britain. So, in your books, I want you to write this question, and I want you to answer it in your own words. How did the Britons feel when the Romans left? It's a difficult question because if you think about it, yes, the Romans have been in charge for a long time, and people don't often like having people from somewhere else being in charge of them. But also the Romans had an army, they offered protection, they built a lot of things, built a lot of roads, a lot of cities. They brought a lot of things to Britain which were very, very useful. But they taxed people. They could be quite brutal in their punishments. They had conquered the country. They had won Britain by war. So people might have had mixed feelings when the Romans left. So in your book, answer the question, how did the Britons feel when the Romans left? What do you think? Pause the video, and then when you're done, we'll carry on. So these Romans, they called the Britons and other people who overthrew their empire barbarians, because they thought they were not as civilized as Romans. Do you think this is true? Why might the Romans think that the people in Britain were barbarians? I think the Romans were very organised and very ordered. So if they saw people who lived differently, often they thought they were barbarians, when in fact they were just people who lived a different way of life. This is an artist's impression of some various ideas of what those people in Britain may have looked like. You can see their clothes, they are not dressed in animal skins, they're not dressed in rags, they're not barefooted apart from that guy on the end. They're dressed in the clothes of civilized people. But I suppose they're not dressed as the Romans were. What I want you to do today, and we'll talk more in other lessons about what happened next, what happened when the Romans left. But for now, I want you to draw a barbarian in your book. You can choose one of these barbarians, or you can create your own using features from different of these people. And then I want you to label it. Label the weapons they've got, label the clothes they're wearing. What can we recognise about these people? Which things do we know what they are? So draw me a picture of a barbarian.